So another struggle that a lot of us realtors have been up against is that currently, if someone has to get flood insurance on a property, they're limited at what they can find if they're getting an FHA loan. This proposal might change that. So there's a proposed rule, which is an opportunity for you guys to take action. It's with the Federal Housing Administration, and they proposed a rule on Tuesday that would allow lenders to use private flood insurance option rather than forcing buyers to go through the price gouging National Flood Insurance Program. Here's a quote.
What happens when you have more vendors in the pool?
It seems like you would have a more competitive price.
That's weird.
Yeah. So here's a quote from the Assistant Secretary for Housing and Federal Housing Commissioner, Dana Wade. They say that our proposal would expand the options for obtaining flood insurance rather than continuing to lock in home buyers to one of the federal options without any ability to comparison shop. We are also proposing the important safeguards that will help protect borrowers so their homes will have flood insurance coverage at the level at or above the level available through the National Flood Insurance Program. So that all sounds pretty good. And I've run into several instances because a lot of times whenever you have flood insurance, it requires more money up front because they're paying a full year premium as part of the flood insurance. So whenever they pay that full year premium, it requires more of a down payment or more closing cost up front for buyer. And a lot of times, if you have a buyer getting government loan or an FHA backed loan, they don't have a huge lump sum for down payment. Right. And a year or two ago, it was killing a couple of deals of mine where we got under contract, everything was fine, they're pre-approved, let's go. Hey, it requires flood insurance, no problem. They get some quotes were outrageous. And I asked the insurance agents, well, where else can you get quotes for this? And I think actually I called Hope, one of them. I was like, where else can people get flood insurance for this? And they're like, well, they have to go through this program. All insurance brokers or agents get it through the same program. And I was like, well, what about this? We found a private provider that was literally 1/3 of the price for the same coverage. But even the private provider that I found said, yeah, we can't do anything because they are forced to go through this program. So this opens up the options, allows more competition for flood insurance, and I think will be a really good thing for people that are trying to get an FHA loan. Hope, here's her quote. She says, or her comment, she says, I can't tell you how many FHA loans I've seen fall through from requiring FEMA. There you go.
So the thing is where it gets a little slippery is when it's required. So I'm happy that I got to go to a second point. Sorry, I had a shot before the show.
Well, let me get to this quote. Okay. Billie Jean, who also used to be in insurance, she says, this is so needed. I wonder if the private options will provide more coverage as well. Apparently there's going to be like a base standard of coverage that is at or above what the National Flood Insurance coverage is at. So they will raise their coverage standards to meet what is currently required in order to get it from a private provider, which that makes much more sense to me.
Well, and that's why I'm happy that there's many more options in the pool for people to choose from, but having it be required, and it's a national requirement. It's not just, so I don't know if everywhere does it, but we have to have an NHD report, a natural hazard disclosure report.
Really? We don't have to have that.
Yeah. So in my opinion, we should have, I guess this would be a California thing. We have that run, have the NHD report done. Then if it comes up, you're in a flood zone, then the requirement kicks in. But just to have it required nationally is still crazy to me. So I'm happy that they're changing it so it doesn't have, it can be by privatized. So there could be, it can keep the prices more competitive, but have it be required is still.
Well, I think it's mostly required in areas that are in an existing floodplain. Now, the question remains if they start looking at the climatized floodplains and the future floodplains based on the climate scientists, is that going to start to be a requirement for flood insurance? And that question is so far unanswered. But looking at the direction that we have in the White House, it could be a climate change based policy. Let's see. Hope says that private flood is almost always more cost effective and allows higher coverage than $250,000. And then she responded to Billie Jean and said, yeah, I issued one last week for $600,000. So Clayton says places flood when girls go look at the okay. Melissa Varhead, this will be so helpful. Howard says kayak time. Oh, look at that. Dan Lugwood said, I can comment on my own show. That's amazing.
It's like
Dan Lugwood,
Inception.
he's actually watching us from YouTube now. So, hey, Dan,
Yeah.
thanks for
I'm
joining
not
the
on
show.
the show anymore. I'm just watching us. Yeah.
And then Ryan Boker says, so we harken back to the days of privatized mortgage insurance. That was far from a competitive market. Well, it's not mortgage insurance, it's flood insurance. And so far, the private market has been super competitive from what I've seen.
Required flood insurance.
Yeah, the flood insurance that you have to get. Clayton says best read ever. Okay, whatever.